How we looking?
We're ready to go.
How we sounding?
Ready to rock and roll.
I mean, after that song, I'm not like ready to sit down.
I'm pumped up. I want to
like,
stand. I want to do this. I want to do this standing up.
Not really, but a better version of me would want to like start pounding the concrete.
Yeah, totally. That's what it's all about.
You picked this song, which tells me a lot. Like, just no, first of all, it's an awesome song.
Yeah.
All-time band.
All-time favorite rock and roll band is Metallica.
Great. Hard to argue with. And you're a gym guy, right? Because the guys who listen to this at our age are gym guys.
Hell yeah.
Like you do this to like get going.
All the time.
Are you like big into playlists?
I'm big into playlists.
I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when we ask guests to pick a song, and we get two types of responses. One is like, okay, let me think about it. And another one's like, okay, I want this song and this. And you can tell those are the guys that take their music seriously. I'm very unartistic, but I take the music stuff. Like I love music.
I love it. So when Sarah asked me what my song was, there was no hesitation.
Yeah.
I was like, that's my walkout song.
I like Unforgiven from them.
Me too. Love it.
One. You ever see
One?
You ever see the video for One?
So I've seen Metallica live 14 times.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's probably one of their best live songs.
One.
Yeah.
I saw Metallica.
You know what it's about, right?
Yeah. It's based on a book.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The soldier.
But my son's in the military.
Oh.
So there's a whole nother. My son's a Marine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And cool. Metallica's his favorite band.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. So this is Tom, our new friend.
Hey guys.
I'm just going to get into it because I think Tom probably has one of the most unique backgrounds of any guest so far. We were just talking about it. And he's deep in the healthcare space, but even with that, it's a very unique perspective, a unique journey. And before I let you kind of talk about it, Tom, there's going to be a bunch of questions, but I'm always fascinated by the individual journey.
Yeah.
Because look, we try to find guests, and by we, I mean Sarah, try to find guests who bring a unique perspective to healthcare because we think healthcare isn't the way it should be. We think the answers are somewhere in there. They're just not obvious. And so we're looking at the folks that we feel have cool perspectives, different ideas, and can help fix it. And so almost by definition, that unique trait it is preceded by a unique journey, right? Mm-hmm. I find that the smartest, most interesting people who have a dynamic view have a very unique journey, not linear. That's what I've learned. And if I've learned one thing in the past year, we've been doing this about a year, it's the people who have a linear path generally have linear thinking. And the people who came at it like, I stumbled on this and I kind of did it and this wasn't working, so I went left and I went right. That mindset of pivoting and thinking outside the box is why they are who they are, why they're different thinkers. And I've learned that it's reflected in their journey. And so I would love if you could spend a few minutes kind of introducing yourself, your origin story, how you got to where you are, what it is you do now, and then we could start to chop it up.
Yeah. So I'll go back to the beginning. I came from nothing, like zero. No disrespect to my family and my parents, but blue collar background. Neither of my parents were educated, went to college, worked really, really hard. I didn't know that we didn't have money. I kind of thought that we were, like everyone else. I didn't even think. But there was something in me that always wanted to be entrepreneurial or have my own business or just be wealthy. You could kind of almost say, yeah, everybody wants to be rich, but I just kind of knew that I was destined to do something entrepreneurial. Went to Rutgers University. I actually wrestled in college. I was recruited to wrestle at Rutgers. Loved my college experience.
Rutgers is awesome.
Loved it. And I literally was like, I became a communications major because I figured I'd just wind up in sales because I love to talk to folks, you know? And that's what I did. I was a communications major, graduated, had a conversation with a good buddy of mine that graduated before me and said, "Hey, I just got this job. I can get you an interview." I'm like, "All right." Got me an interview. I wound up getting a job at US Healthcare selling HMO plans. Like before, like HMOs were no one even knew what it was.
That's the old Aetna?
The old Aetna.
Yeah.
So I'm selling HMO plans in 1990 when like people are like, "You mean I have to switch my doctor?"
Yeah.
Like that. That's what I was dealing with.
Right. That's like the beginning of the middleman.
It was the very beginning.
Yeah.
Managed care. This was like changing the paradigm.
Yeah.
And I was a little, I think, too early to it because like anything else, it was a tough sell. But I wound up getting into pharmaceutical sales, and I loved that. I did that for about 10 years. And I'll fast forward. I was in the gym one day. A guy gets on the machine next to me, strikes up a conversation. He's a friend of a friend. He and a couple of guys are starting a new business, and it's a recruiting company for IT, like technology recruiting. And he said, "We need somebody to help us with sales. Would you help us out?" So I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And started doing that on the side. That's like internet boom time, late 90s.
Okay.
We were killing it. I actually quit my day job, went all in on the recruiting thing. And then 9/11 happened. And that whole thing fell apart. And from there, I kind of was at a crossroads and had a decision to make. Do I stay with these guys or do I maybe do something different? So I started a recruiting company, but with a pharma focus. I wanted to get back to pharma.
So you combined the two.
I combined the two.
Yeah.
What I learned about recruiting
Yeah.
and what I knew about pharma. And I started a recruiting company.
What year is that?
2002.
Okay, yeah. And you said so.
2002, yeah.
22 years. This company that you started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And walk us through that. That's interesting.
So crazy. I'm a sales guy, so I'm like, all right, I got to go out and sell. My first client was Bristol Myers Squibb, huge pharma company, big client. Had a good relationship.
Wait, just how does at that time you don't have a name, you don't have the reputation you have now.
Yeah.
You're at that time you're just a guy off the street.
Yeah.
And Bristol Myers has 1 million blue chip agencies that do what you're telling them you're going to do.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the places that it would be really helpful. Well, that's a good thing. So this to me is a magical point in the journey is how does a Fortune 500 company that has 1 million guys that they have relationships with in front of you, how do you get in front of them and how do you get them to trust you?
Yeah. So that's the first lesson I learned in business. It's one word, relationships. And I'll tell you, and I mentioned how important, I said the word sales and how important it is when you're in business, you have to be good at sales. If you're in business, any business, you have to be a salesperson.
Yeah. Sales is everything.
That's everything.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I talked to everyone. I called everyone I knew, everyone that I've developed relationships with in my recruiting world. And I said, "Hey, listen, just want to let you know, I got something new going. Here's what I'm going to be doing. If you know anybody in the pharmaceutical industry, I'd love to meet them. Here's what I'm doing." And one of the guys was like, "That's so funny." He's like, "My girlfriend works at Bristol Myers Squibb." He's like, he was my boy. He said, "I'll introduce you to her." And the next thing you know, we were out and we're having drinks and he introduced me to her and she's like, "Call me tomorrow. We can use you. I'll hook you up." And she literally overnight from that one conversation, she got me on the vendor list at Bristol Myers Squibb. It became probably my best client of all time.
Relationships, just like that.
Relationships.
All of the relationships.
You go to your relationships.
Right? The emotional intelligence, how to work with Jazz. Weren't we just talking about this? That's one of those 4 pillars. That's amazing.
And you want to know how
that unlocks this company for you.
You want to know how I grew my network within Bristol Myers Squibb? This is so crazy. So one day I get this catalog. You know, you get these crazy, like, you know, it's junk mail.
Yeah.
And it's from Hershey's. And Hershey's, during Halloween season, they had these canisters, these containers of all different types of like chocolates. So it's like all their variety chocolates. And there was like Halloween themes, and you can personalize the container. So
Okay.
just imagine like a small garbage can.
Yeah.
Was big.
I know those things.
Yeah. They don't do it anymore. But
I
at the
remember,
time, I
yeah.
said, you know what? I'm gonna for Halloween, I'm gonna send one of those to Bristol Myers Squibb. I'm gonna put it in the different departments,
Okay.
and it's gonna have my name on it. And every time somebody goes and gets a piece of candy, everybody loves candy.
Yeah.
Right. You're sitting around the office, you're
Yeah.
eating candy. It said, Happy Halloween from your friends at the Carolyn Group. And I got known like from the candy. Now, in all fairness, I would make trips down there,
Yeah.
and I would grab one person, and that person would walk me around and introduce me to other people. So I was very visible there all the time. But the Halloween candy was a hit. It went viral.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, go for it.
How many candy-like ideas did you do that didn't hit? Was it like you had this one idea, you didn't work, or are you leaving out like I can tell you for everything I do that works, there's 30 things that fail.
Yeah.
So was it like, well, actually, Z, you know what? First I tried this and that and this and that and this, but it was the candy that worked, or was you hit it on your first shot?
No, I mean, it was, I remember one time we tried to do a happy hour. I tried to do a happy hour
Right.
in Princeton,
Right.
and nobody showed up.
Right.
So I'm hosting a happy hour.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
had the whole thing set
Yeah.
up, paid for. We
Yeah.
were going to do like, not a set menu, but like they
Right.
knew that I was
Right.
doing this. And like 2 people showed up.
Yeah.
And I pretended like that's what I had kind of planned. It was embarrassing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. This is like 20 years ago.
This is 20 years ago. But I did another one. I didn't give up because I thought it was a good idea. And I did another one, and it was better, but it still wasn't as good as the Halloween candy was a hit. And I had a few luncheons. So I actually got confirmation. I offered to bring the team, the talent acquisition team, out to lunch, invited everyone, got commitments, made a reservation, and then we went out to lunch at a really nice place. It's a seafood place down in Princeton, really nice place. And I had little goodie bags made up for each person. So I got like a t-shirt and like, swag.
Yeah.
And that
Swag before there was swag.
that was a hit. And the reason the happy hour wasn't a hit is because a lot of these people had families and they had kids and sports and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was at the time single.
Yeah.
Or no, maybe I was married, but like I was able to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have kids.
You didn't consider like, yeah.
To me, it was like, happy hour. We like everybody.
Can I
drinks.
ask another question?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I think we're similar in this regard. Like, I don't have a problem going up to talk to anybody, right? And obviously, I think you're similar. A question I get asked, even by guys or girls that I work with, by family and friends, they'll be like, how do you just like talk to this, talk to that? Now, I'll tell you something. I think as a primary care guy, most primary care doctors are good talkers because we spend a lot of time talking to families.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be difficult to do what I do.
It's your job.
It's our job. So I want to ask you as a professional, right? Because you're a professional communicator, right? Simple question, but you'd be surprised how many. I bet you 1 million people want this answer. You said you'd show up to the office, someone would show you around, and then you'd meet people. You skip over that because it's natural for you.
Yeah.
How do you just go up to somebody and start talking to them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to take the fear out of it. I think the biggest problem with people that are not comfortable going up and talking and saying something to someone is that they get in their own head and they talk themselves out of it before they even get up to the person.
Right.
So you have to completely take the fear out of it.
How do you do that?
So I'll tell you a little trick that is so simple and anybody can do it.
Hans, listen up.
But this is there's there's two things. There's hello and there's eye contact.
Okay.
That's it. So now I'm looking at you right now, square in the eye, and we kind of have a connection. I'm just looking at you and we have a connection.
Right.
Now, if I say hello to you, let's just say it's strangers in a room.
Mm-hmm.
I look at you in the eye and I say hello.
Yeah.
There's an instinctive,
Yeah.
almost responsibility
Yeah.
on that person's part to at least acknowledge the other person.
There's a pull.
And the eye contact is very important.
Okay.
Because it's, first of all, eye contact shows confidence, but it also, and you know, it releases oxytocin in the other person.
Yeah.
They feel it.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. People think it's like kabuki magic when you talk about the transfer of energy between people. It's absolutely
Big believer in energy.
the case.
Yeah.
Like I felt your energy when I walked in here. I'm like, wow.
I'm sorry about that.
Just I was like, wow, man, this guy's energy, imagine. I thought there was going to be an explosion when I walked in the room. Say hello. That's it.
Eye contact.
Eye contact, say hello. And from there, you watch how easy things develop. And I'll tell you this isn't a trick. Just remember the one subject, everyone, no matter who it is, everyone loves to talk about more than anything else is themselves. So if you understand the art of asking questions about the other person, oh, hey, how's your day going? Oh, so what? I see you all the time, but I'm not 100% sure what you do here.
Yeah.
Look, ask them about them.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, last time we met, you mentioned this. Just the fact that you remembered the conversation.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you see the change. You'll see the change in people.
Yeah. When
you bring it back to them.
Yeah.
And then you start asking about them, they light up and they open up.
Right.
You're on a whole different level now.
Right.
And the key also is continue to maintain that eye contact. Keep that connection going. Let the person realize that you're not just asking, because sometimes there's people that are very disingenuous.
Yeah.
And they know how to do this, but they're really not considerate.
Yeah.
They're just, making conversation because they think that's what they have to do.
Checking a
But if
box.
you show genuine interest, and if you're really having a connection with that other person, they're going to walk away feeling, wow, man, there's something about that guy.
I like that guy. By the way, that's like, I'm telling you, because I deal with people the way you deal with people. That advice is like gold for people. People struggle. I mean, on a medical basis, I see more social anxiety in kids and adults than you could imagine.
Yeah.
And it's simply like, hey, I get nervous around people. Period. Nothing more. Forget wanting or being able to go up. Everybody knows if you know how to talk to people, you could establish relationships. And if you establish relationships, you're going to be better off in a million ways, personally, professionally, whatever it is, right? So in my world, right, I'll give you what happens in my life. One of the things we pride ourselves on at Baker Health, we get our members into specialists in 2 seconds when necessary. Now, right now, if you want to get into a top specialist, it's months, not days and weeks. It's months. You want to see this guy at Columbia. You want to see this person at whatever. You know why we're able to do that? It's not because we have a special phone number. It's not because of this. Because mainly my brother, Yad, and some of the doctors we work with, and many of our team have these relationships. And the manager at the office at this place at Columbia University has brought her kids to us for 15 years. And so when one of our team texts her and like, hey, and we don't abuse it. When the kid has to be seen, we're like, listen, you got to get him in. She knows what we're about. We're nice. We've done her favors. But all that stems from just having a conversation, right? Most people are nice. Most people are helpful. But if you don't start a conversation with somebody, you can't express that. You can't manifest that. That's the foundation. But I see more anxiety across all ages than ever before. And it's a curious thing. the art of talking, I think, has become an art only in modern times. In the old days, when you weren't buried in your phone, when you weren't buried in front of a screen, TV, iPad, you had to talk. That was entertainment. So a lot of people knew how to communicate. Conversation wasn't a lost art. That term, conversation to lost art, is true. And so guys like you are actually, something as old as talking is more scarce than it's ever been. Because the kids right now, kids talk less than they ever did. When we were kids, you talked. You talked. You were talking about the baseball cards. You were talking about the Knicks. You were talking about your school grade. Now they don't talk. They just text. They don't talk. They're just on our screen. So actually, it's more important than ever before.
Not only that, when I was growing up, and I just heard this, I don't know if it was a comedian, but I heard this somewhere, that we didn't have cell phones growing up, but we actually had phones. They called them landlines. And everybody had a phone in their kitchen. And the kitchen phone was, that's how your friends would communicate with you. Now, guess what would happen? When you called your friend, sometimes the mother picked up the phone. And the mother would be like, hello. And then you would say, oh, hi, Mrs. So-and-so. Can I speak to?
Yeah.
Now, you had to have a conversation with the mother.
Right, right.
So I
more formal.
grew up at a time when if I wanted to talk to my friend, I had to know how to talk to the mother or the father or the sister or whatever else.
Right.
There was no caller ID. You didn't know who was calling. You picked up the phone.
Right.
That's been eliminated now.
Yeah.
So Apple killed the conversation.
Right, right, right.
Cell phones killed the conversation.
Yeah.
Texting is eroding interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like, I don't want to get up on a high horse, but in my profession as a recruiter, dealing with young job seekers, it's often painful to see the gap.
Yeah, it's true. That was awesome, man. Thank you. Can we, before we get to the questions, just on your journey, just bring us to what it is you do, like right now, because you have a unique kind of perspective. What is it you do? You've built this company, recruiting, but can you just talk about what it is exactly you do?
Yeah. So we specialize in recruiting medical science liaisons and medical affairs professionals for pharmaceutical and biotech companies. So medical affairs department exists within pharma and biotech companies, separate from like sales and marketing and commercial. Medical affairs is really the scientific voice behind the products, the research and the development and the medical messaging that goes out. Medical science liaisons are doctorate level, PharmD, MD, PhD educated individuals that are trained on the data and science behind a drug. And their responsibility is to educate key opinion leaders, physicians, healthcare practitioners on the science, the data, and the research behind the drug.
Right.
So they do handle a territory like a sales rep, but they're not promotional. They're not selling anything or promoting anything. They're educating and they're letting the healthcare provider make the decision as to what they want to use, whether it's their product or another product.
Right.
Doesn't really matter.
Right.
So pharma companies come to my firm and they say, hey, we need your expertise and we're looking for medical science liaisons or medical directors or managed care folks, HEOR folks. And then I have a team of recruiters that go out and they find those people. And then we send those people out on interviews with the company, with the client. And we get paid a fee when they hire them.
And you love it.
I love it. I love what I do. I can't see myself, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And I love both sides of the equation. I deal with the client. That's my responsibility.
And
I'm the sales guy.
when you say client, that's the
pharma company.
The company. Okay. Yeah.
Now, I like dealing with the job seeker, although I don't do as much recruiting. When I first started, I did everything.
Yeah, of course.
Like Bristol Myers Squibb would give me a job to work on. Hey, Tom, we need a medical science liaison. I'm like, okay, great. I would go out and find a medical science liaison, and I did everything.
Yeah.
And then I sent them the bill.
Yeah.
So now I have a team that does this stuff for me, but I'm still the main business developer, salesperson. But I still like to be in touch with the candidates. Matter of fact, I like being in touch with the candidates so much. I just wrote my first book.
Oh,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So kind of announcing it. Like,
Congrats.
yeah, like
What's it called?
No
Is
one
it, like,
really knows.
out, or it's getting.
it's with my publisher right now. So I have a publisher
Okay.
and it's being edited right now. It's finished. And it's called Job Search Mastery:
Wow.
How to Win Your Dream Job.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. I'm so proud of it.
That's
It's actually too good. It's so
You're
good.
gonna come back on and talk about it again.
Oh, you'll love it.
That's awesome.
It's really, really good.
Congratulations, man. That's a
Thank
big
you.
deal.
And it's not just for pharma people or MSLs, or it's any job seeker. You could be 16 years old or 60 years old. If you're on the job market, you need to read this book.
So that's an awesome narrative. I think I want to make one comment and then we could open it up for questions. I'm sure there's like 10, 15, 20 questions. The part you mentioned about when I started, I did everything. I was having a conversation with somebody. And this person is somebody who is very close and who I care about. And they have this trait where they always need everything to be very clear and specific before they take the next step. It has to be like, but what, how, what? And you always want to ask questions, but there is such a thing as too many. Like sometimes you got to jump. And so he's talking to me. He's like, well, shit. But it's not clear. I'm like, they're thinking very bright, has several opportunities. And I'm like, which opportunity do you think you'll learn more in? It's like, well, this opportunity I'm gonna make $5,000 more per year. But this opportunity told me I can advance in 2 years to the director role, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, where do you think you're now? This person right now is about 24 years old, 25 years old. So I just kept on saying to him, I said, where do you think you'll learn more? And he's like, Z, but how about this? How about that? I'm like, dude, you're 24, 25. I'm like, not to minimize anything, you making an extra 4 or 5 G's right now is not going to matter in the long run. You don't have a wife, kids, more. Okay. Also, like you being in this position in 2 years, newsflash, in 20 years, you're probably not going to be where you are now. I know you're not going to care. But the only thing that's going to matter when you look back is between 23, 24, and 30, 31, 32. Did you really arm yourself? Because that's what you did. That sets you up on a go forward, right? It's when you're out of Rutgers, the next 7, 8, 9 years experiences. And he said, well, okay, fine. I finally convinced him. He said, how do I know I said, where are they giving you the least specific description of your job? Where can you do everything, right? And even in our company, if you said, Z, we have about 100 employees, give or take. If you said, who are the top 10 team members? They're the ones with the hardest to define roles because they cross boundaries, right? The one who like, this is the title. If you can tell me someone's job description, their title, they're replaceable. When you're like, well, she doesn't, I guess she's a manager, but when you start rambling about what they do, that's a winner.
Oh yeah.
So early on, I still try to do everything, but very important. You don't want to say, that's not my job. I don't do that. That's not what I signed up for. Do everything.
Totally agree.
Should we do some questions?
Yeah, I got the first question. I got the first question for you guys.
Yes, I know what you're wondering. That's his energy level.
It's like, thought it was me. I thought I freaked him out because I gave him that stare before.
So it's funny. Before you go into the question, before we go into questions, that whole eye contact thing is how I like wooed my fiance, my now fiance, on our first couple of dates.
Hans, my brother, it's not like unique to make eye contact with your fiance.
No. When
we're talking about how do you engage with somebody.
No, this is like the first dates, like when we first started dating, is what I'm talking about. Like when
you mean she brings it up now? He just got engaged.
Congratulations, brother.
So she brings it up now because she's like, you don't make eye contact anymore. I'm like, I already gave you everything.
Come on, man.
Gave her the ring. I'm done.
See what I deal with? All
right. So the first question is, I'm about to finish my master's in business administration, and I'm looking for a career in healthcare. Can you cover some common do's and don'ts and some competitive advantage tips? So this is like a general answer for Z and Tom, because Z, you look at it from your aspect.
I mean, I'm going to give a short answer. And I think Tom, like, this is kind of like the book.
It's a book.
So like that, I'll tell you 2 things I've been telling people about considering in healthcare. And I don't think people will like the first one. Some people won't, especially we have a lot of doctors that watch this. We train a lot of doctors, blah, blah, They're not going to like it. It's gotten to the point in healthcare where, since the biggest problem in healthcare is not the medical care as much as all the crap in there, if you're looking to get in healthcare, the value of folks who can operate and manage healthcare systems, whether it's an individual office, whether it's a specialty, whether it's a workflow, whether it's a tech app, is gotten to the point where it's generally much more valuable than the average doctor. Meaning, I can give you right now a list of 50 doctors that if you need cancer, cardio, ENT, I would trust them and they're excellent. I could not give you 50 people that can solve the shit show that is healthcare from point A to point B. And so getting into the administrator, and I hate using words administrator and operator because 99% of that is fluff and nonsense. So I'm careful, but the stars that know what they're doing, that's where I think the action is in healthcare. Yes, there's going to be somebody who has a breakthrough in cancer tomorrow, but the biggest breakthrough you could make now is getting someone in timely, making sure they understand healthcare instructions, making sure they have a nutritionist, right? You know, if you cure a certain cancer tomorrow, that's not going to save more lives than improving access to quality care. That's not going to save more lives than translating the importance of nutrition and fitness. That's where the breakthrough should happen. They're staring at us, but the problem is most doctors are looking this way. Why are we fatter than ever, higher blood sugar than ever? You know, so that's one thing I would say. Everybody's looking here. That paradigm has shifted. The second thing I would say is when you're coming out, again, 20s, 30s, maybe, before you have a lot of obligations, that's the time to put your head down, dive in. And I'm old school, and some people don't like this. I don't care. I still have not you might tell me something different. I have not found someone I respect at our level who didn't spend a decade or more, 7 days a week, grinding, knee deep in the game, making sacrifices. And work-life balance is great. I think work-life balance is something you earn later. I don't think it's something you start your career with. And if you start your career with that kind of ethos, I don't think you have much of a career. And some people don't like to hear that, but you know, those people who don't like to hear that, I tell them, let me ask you something. You want what? Cool. You love when you text me at midnight and I answer, it's Sunday, it's Easter, and you never give a thought, is this guy with his kids or not? And by the way, not because we're special, because we care, because we love it. And we figure it out. We figure it out with our family. And so I think those are the two pieces of advice I'd give. But on a technical, professional, how to present yourself, leverage points, I like that competitive advantage in interviewing and process. I'd love to hear more tactical stuff from you.
Well, before I answer that question, I still work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm 56 years old. I don't.
56?
Yeah.
Jesus. Wait, you represent BioLife Science, or like you're an experiment yourself in it?
So my hobby is anti-aging.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Next book.
I'm actually writing a book with another guy that's an anti-aging book. That's coming out next. So
dude, we gotta get our game up.
Yeah, now I'm obsessed.
I feel like I'm the guest.
Yeah.
This guy's killing it.
That's a whole other subject.
we have 3 more episodes
so you
with
know.
this guy.
Yeah. So I work every day. I'm not killing myself every day. But I try to move the needle every single day. And the one, I'll tell you I'm going to get to answer the question, but I'm going to give you one word that'll change your life if you let it. And it's discipline. If you could be disciplined every day in activities that are going to achieve progress in your life, you will be successful. I'll give you an example. My whole book is it's not just about, okay, here's how you write a resume and here's how you apply to a position. It's about the daily activities that you need to find the discipline to do in order to seek progress, in order to get you the job. These are the activities. If you're disciplined and you schedule it and chunk your time properly and work hard at it, it's going to happen for you.
Can you give some specific examples?
Yeah. So, and this is in my book. There's a story that I tell in the book. It's about Charles Barkley.
Love him.
So Charles Barkley, when he first came into the NBA, he was 300 pounds.
Yeah. And he was oversized and undersized.
Yeah.
Because he was short for his position And he was heavy, so
Right.
physically disadvantaged. Yeah.
but he was a great player.
Great. Love Barkley.
And he went to Moses Malone, who was at the end of his career, and he said, "What do I need to do to get more playing time?" So Moses said to him, "You need to lose weight." He's like, "You're out of shape, and I need you to go out and lose 10 pounds." That's what he told him to do. Charles Barkley went out, ate healthy, came back, and he said, "I lost 10 pounds." So he said, "Okay, I want you to lose another 10 pounds." So didn't ask any questions, went out and lost the 10 pounds. He did that like 6 times, lost like 60 pounds. So finally he said, "Okay, now you're ready." And he goes, "Well, wait a second." He's like, "Why don't you just tell me to lose 60 pounds? And Moses said to him, "Because you would have never done it."
Right.
That's the whole key behind discipline is you do one thing
Right.
at a time,
Right.
10 pounds at a time.
Right.
So what type of job search activities? So I'll give you a perfect example. Networking is really important in the job search game.
Sure.
So what I tell people, just like I said to you when I started my business, I called everybody I knew, right? But I didn't call them all in one day.
Right.
I made like 20 contacts a day, every day, while I was building my business, doing other things. 20 times, let's say 6 days a week I was working at that point in time, right?
Sure.
We're talking about hundreds of contacts. It wasn't 120 in one day.
Right.
It was 20 at a time. So LinkedIn, I'm a big LinkedIn guy.
I love LinkedIn.
You
They make
need
fun of me. They think I'm old.
you
I'm like,
need to be active
screw the
on
gram,
LinkedIn.
yeah.
You need to send out connection invites and get more and more connections. So it's like, okay, here's the game plan. You need to send out 15 connection requests a day. You have to reach out to 5 people and ask for informational interviews. That's in my book, where you meet with somebody that's doing the current role and you ask them questions about the role.
Good tip.
Right? Ask for job referrals, like employee referrals. So you see a job posted that you feel like you're a good fit for, find somebody at the company and reach out to them and say, "Hey, would you be willing to get my resume in front of the right people?"
Wow.
Now, I'm just giving you some tips off the top of my head. I didn't say you do all that on one day.
Right.
You break it off into 10-pound increments like Charles Barkley did. And when you're to answer that person's question, when you're building up your career early on, you're working on your transferable skills. You're working on your experience. If you decide that your passion is you want to be in social media, you want to be a social media manager, well, get an internship, work for free. Just spend time doing people's social media postings, create content, create video, develop a skill set, learn the tools of the game, whatever the tools are, Photoshop and video editing and, YouTube, whatever. And you build the experience and the transferable skills so that you have a portfolio that you could talk about. Because here's the key, and I talk about this in my book. You need to develop what I call a unique value proposition, which is a marketing term.
Yeah.
But we all can have our own unique value proposition.
Absolutely.
What makes us valuable? Why am I valuable?
Yeah.
And then that's what you need to communicate to the potential employer. Because if they truly see your value and how you could be valuable to them, now they're going to want you.
Yeah.
If you just, I don't know, you slap a resume together and there's no direction, there's really no transferable skills, here's my resume. The value's not there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be excited about.
Right.
But you can't expect to build that overnight.
Right.
That's why it does take a commitment 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you need to work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Right.
but maybe you're still sending out the LinkedIn invites and you're still sending out emails and you're still sending text messages to friends. How hard is that?
Yeah.
We're not talking about, it's not that hard to do.
I mean, you're clicking on your damn phone anyway.
What's the difference?
Make it productive.
So
Stop
that's
scrolling, Hans.
That's an
Start
example.
clicking. How great is this? This is magic I'm listening to.
He has a pretty strong LinkedIn. And I followed suit from Aziz.
It's good, right? LinkedIn.
I think that's how Sarah found me, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
I think like when you're at that 500 plus connection, you're doing something.
I even use LinkedIn for news. Like,
Yeah.
because you'll have like folks that are in the industry either resharing an article from Bloomberg that they like, which if I respect that guy or woman, then I'm going to read the article.
Yeah.
I follow them, or they just have their takes. And these are people in industry, in healthcare, let's say, who I respect. And I get their perspective, which I don't get that on other social media platforms. So I agree with you about LinkedIn.
Funny, that's one of the questions is how do you guys stay on top of like relevant medical news, like new medical procedures as like a medical recruiter and a doctor? How do you guys like discover this?
Well, I'll tell you, for us, we have a couple of like hacks that I think keep us ahead of the curve. One, a lot of times people come in and they're always like, if you were here 3 hours ago, there's like 2 residents and medical students and blah, blah, blah hanging out. And they're like, why do you guys teach? How do you find the time? Private practice, blah, blah, blah. One of the best reasons to do it is these young folks, these young women and men that are studying at Rutgers Medical School or Columbia, and they come and they're a nurse practitioner or whatever. They have the fresh information. And many times in between seeing members, they're sitting right here, Tom, I'm not kidding. And they're studying and we'll do cases together. And they're like, no, now for RSV bronchiolitis, this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. And it keeps us very fresh. So teaching actually is a great way to learn what's happening today.
Absolutely.
And that's why all our doctors are associate professor at this and that. And we love teaching up and comers. The second thing, believe it or not, the people in the life science business, whether it's the folks you represent and even more traditional farm reps, people don't get this. Many doctors, that's kind of the only way they have of keeping abreast of like the new asthma medicine. And people don't like to hear that, but they come in and they update you and they'll say, listen, like it was a big thing, especially in pediatrics, like float, like one of the meds we use for asthma maintenance on a gajillion kids got discontinued this January, right? The first place I got that was a rep my brother and I played basketball with like 4 months ago. So we actually put protocols in our EMR ahead of time, and then it started trickling out in the news, right? And that's true, man, because look, you can't be unrealistic. You can't say, I want my doctor to know everything, but I want him to be there whenever I need him. Well, he's going to be busy doing this, that. So we got to find a way to bake it in to our lifestyle. How about you, Tom? How do you get?
Well, I mean, we are privy to a lot of new science in our job because we get involved in projects with really cutting edge research and development. So we actually wind up getting educated and learn about things before they even come out because our clients are engaging us to work on positions for drugs that haven't even been approved yet.
Sure.
Because of that, you become a student of the game because you want to know what it is that you're talking about. So now you start to do more research on the category of drugs that you're dealing with.
Right.
And then you kind of self-educate. So it's actually, quite honestly, it's a lot of Google searching, to be honest, for us. We're getting information from our clients, but then we're trying to expand our knowledge by going out and seeing what else is available to educate us so that we could not just sound professional when we're communicating, but so that we know what we're talking about.
Beautiful.
Tom, as a recruiter, what are some challenges do you face when you're recruiting like your reps and all of that? And then Z, what challenges do you face when you're recruiting doctors?
So on my in my world, there's a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is sometimes our clients have very unrealistic expectations about what it is that they're looking for. So I'm literally on the way over here. I was talking to one of my main recruiters about having to restart a search because the hiring manager said, yeah, no, I'm not comfortable with any of these candidates. I mean, it's almost obscene how stringent some hiring managers can be in what they're looking for. It's not like, hey, just find me a really good this or a really good that. It's like, find me a purple squirrel with red eyes. It's really specific at times. So our challenge becomes, number one, being able to find the specific talent that our clients are looking for. And number two, we have to, this is another thing that we're dealing with right now, we have to deal with unrealistic job seekers. So there's unrealistic hiring managers and clients, but there's also unrealistic job seekers. And I'll give you an example. Right now, there's this perception that you never accept an initial offer. You always negotiate, no matter what.
Right.
Never accept an initial offer. My friend told me
Right.
I can't ever accept an initial offer unless I'm telling you that our client is giving you their best and final offer. There's such a thing as the best and final offer. If you hear those words, best and final, you know what it means? It means best and final.
Yeah.
There is no negotiating.
Yeah.
We already, as you say, we baked it in.
Yes.
We did the negotiating.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, my friend said this, or I'm not comfortable with you. I've 30 years of professional experience. You're not comfortable with me negotiating with that. So you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many deals go south because the hiring manager sees the candidate in a totally different light. And now they're like, you know what? I don't think I want that person to come here if that's the way they're going to handle things.
How many times do we see that? Like someone we like, and then they come off a certain way, and you're like, I thought I liked them, but it actually gives me the opportunity to see the real them, the way they move, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's great. For me, it's a similar answer. It's gotten to the point now where I think it's farcical. I think people who come in to interview probably think we're a joke at this point. And I really don't care because I used to sit, I've hired, no joke, hundreds and hundreds of people.
I'm
We used
sure.
to have a different company. And I've hired me and my brother. I kid you not, there would be days we'd sit there for hours, doctor, nurse, receptionist. And it was like us explaining what we're about for 5 minutes and then us asking 30 minutes a question about the candidate. And now it's the opposite. Now I just sit there and I'm like, I don't care. Like, let me tell you who we are culturally for 10 minutes. And actually, and you could ask Jasmine, you could ask Sarah, because they do a lot of the interviewing themselves because they're leaders in the organization. I see them. I know they do this now. They'll just sit there and they'll come out and I'm like, how'd it go? And they're like, I think I scared the shit out of them pretty good because our goal is to be like, here's what we're about. Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Like we kind of push them away to see how they react.
Yeah.
Because what matters more is not everybody looks good in a 5-minute interview. The question is when you're here 3 months later, are you like, what the hell did I get into? That's where it goes wrong. So let us be as clear as possible what you're getting into so that you don't make the wrong decision and we don't suffer from the wrong decision. And so I think we've gotten to a place where like, if you told me 5 years ago, this is how we're going to conduct business, I'd be like, that's a weird way to do it. I'm like, dude, this is the best. Now we're like, people come into like, I really like what you guys are doing. I'm following you guys and I like it. It's disruptive and it's holistic and it's different. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But let me tell you what the guts of it is. Let me tell you how we do that. You know why it's disruptive? We offer 24/7 access. If 2 nights a week, you're overnight answering the chat, are you cool with that? Oh, well, how did you think we're 24/7? Yeah, so we're obsessed with customer service just as much as we are with quality care. So it's not a receptionist. You're going to greet the member. You're going to escort them to the room. You're going to ask them how they like their coffee. And we're going to take their blood pressure. We're going to take care of them physically and emotionally that day. Oh, I didn't learn that in school. Cool. Are you willing to learn it now? Well, how much vacation? This is
what you deal with.
So so similar.
Yeah.
Great. Next question.
So this is like one of our last few questions for Tom. As a recruiter, what are some challenges that you faced? Like
You just asked that.
Sorry, not that. What were some challenges that you faced when you were interviewing for jobs before you started your company?
Oh, before I started my company.
And then you compare it, like now comparing it to like you running your own recruitment company.
Yeah.
So
I think when I was interviewing years ago, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't educate myself. I think I interviewed well because I'm a good communicator.
mm-hmm.
I think that I just naturally tried to connect with people, and I did the same thing I explained before. Is I actually flipped it back to the person interviewing me, tried to create a relationship with them, asked them about them, asked really good questions in the interview, which showed that A, I was interested, B, I was genuinely, trying to develop a relationship with that person. And then I could be a good salesperson, because what do good salespeople do? They ask questions. But I didn't really know what I was. No one educated me. It wasn't until later in my life and my career that I worked on personal growth and started reading books, listening to podcasts, and watching obsessively watching videos to educate myself. Earlier in my career, I didn't do enough of that. So I guess my advice is, as a job seeker, you owe it to yourself to buy my book. No.
I love it. Sales.
That's great.
You owe it to yourself to educate yourself and work on your personal improvement and personal development, because nobody else is going to do it. You have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, listen, 15 minutes before you walked in, was that not what we were discussing? 15 minutes before you walked in, on how our leaders, because we have great leaders, how they can become better and better leaders. One thing you mentioned, and I'm going to leave you to do the tactical stuff, but tell me if my sense of this is correct in the interview process, because you mentioned ask good questions. So sometimes we'll be like, all right, so, whatever, hi, bye. Any questions for us, right? Like Sarah or Jasmine will be like, any questions? And I don't know why, if someone doesn't if they're like, no, I'm like, I'm like, if you don't have any questions about someplace you're trying to make a career out of, something's wrong. It shows either a lack of interest,
major
or a lack of
red
insight.
flag. Exactly. Or both.
I'm like, so if you're going to an interview, you should have some really, really good questions. Because if you don't, that means, because like if you go buy a car, you're going to ask questions. Nobody ever walked in and said, give me the red one. They ask questions, right? Yeah. If you're going to get married, you might ask one or two questions. It's called dating for a year, right? If we're saying this is a career, not a job, we're looking for very passionate people. This is a marriage, a car, somewhere in between. So if you don't ask questions, that's the number one sign that you're not taking this as seriously as we do. And so you're not on the team, right? We want people who bleed for this. And so you should have really good questions. And I'll extend it. The other day, one of my kids, me and my wife and my kids were watching something. And, I'm a little annoying, I think, for my kids when we were watching, Lincoln, the movie with Daniel. I love Daniel Day-Lewis. So I make my kids watch, like, In the Name of the Father. I think, anyways, I have a thing. So my kids now, they're watching it, and we're watching Lincoln, and like, I'm the guy who like every 30 minutes pauses it, and I'll like ask them, like, what did you learn from this scene? Like, what does this tell you? Like, oh, he sacrificed this or that. And, they entertain me, but when the popcorn's out and it's like midnight, they're like, shut up and play the movie. And so one of the things, my son grabbed the remote and he paused it. And he goes, Dad, can I ask a question? I'm like, yeah. And he asked a question. And my wife is there. She didn't like this. I go, that's a stupid question. And she's like, don't say that. You're going to discourage his curiosity. I'm like, no, they know they can ask questions, but there is such a thing as a dumb question. This notion that there's no such thing. And sometimes I hear questions from people, and it can actually take away points. So if at the end of the interview, your only question is, so if I have a vacation, does that mean like this? If that's your question, that's the only thing worse than no questions.
Yeah. If you start asking,
you want to show
benefits questions.
That's going to come with the territory. Like, look at where you are. If you're interviewing for a company, you're probably fond of that organization. They probably have great people and a great culture. If they have that, they're great to their team. So you should just, some things you got to connect the dots on. But I noticed that at the end when I'm like, here's what we're about, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I saw you worked here and you did this and blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, great. So, we're very serious here. We're very intense, right? It's fun, but it's intense, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, no. You think you're cut out for it? I really do. Okay. Any questions?
Crickets.
Like, dude, come on. I start looking around. I'm not good at hiding I'm like looking around and I'm like, okay, cool. Have a nice day.
Drives me crazy.
Do you agree? The question
totally
part
agree.
is important?
Totally agree. Well, it's important it's in my book too. It's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it does show interest. If the person asks questions, that shows there's some curiosity about where they're going, where they think they're going to work. So it shows you that they're thinking about coming here. And these are the things that they want to know. The other thing is it's good practice. Like that means that they didn't prepare for the interview. They weren't educated on how to interview, because anybody that knows what a good interview looks like, someone's going to tell them that you should have questions, at least 3 questions. And those questions should be about the organization, the position, not benefits and, something that's going to be intrinsic. It's, the goals of the organization, the culture of the organization, the opportunities for advancement, what's the vision for the company? Where do you, I'm really impressed with, I'm really impressed with the organization. I had a chance to review you guys, on your website, and I'm really impressed, and I'm curious what's next, or like just some level of excitement and enthusiasm and curiosity. That's all we want.
Yeah. I remember, actually, I could go through my history and remember when I've been like wowed by good questions. Like, now that I'm listening to you, when you're like the type of, I'm actually thinking of people that have worked for me where I'm like, and I've worked with them for like 10 years, and I'm like, I remember when I interviewed her. And that question, I was like, she's a killer.
Yeah.
And I remember it. Like, and now I'm thinking of all those people. Yeah, that's awesome. Next
That's
question.
the last question before we get into some basketball. Tom, what are your predictions on the job market, since it is kind of a shit show at the moment?
Yeah.
And then how would you deal with like applicant fatigue? People that are applying, going through the interview process,
That's a good question.
1, 2, 3 round interviews, and then saying, unfortunately, we're laying people off, or we decided to go with a different.
Yeah.
Like, how would you tell someone to deal with that mentally? Z, you can also talk about that, since holistic health and all that.
Well, first, I mean, the whole mental piece of it is you have to develop a resiliency and realize that rejection is a part of the process, and it's not you. Like, a lot of people are like, I applied to this many positions and I got this many no's, and it's like, it's not you. It's unfortunately a part of the process right now. So there's an expression, and it's a John Maxwell expression, and it's shortened. It's fail fast and fail forward. That means that you actually have to embrace failure. You have to expect failure.
Failing upwards, kind of.
Well, the faster you fail, the closer you're going to get to your goal. So let's just say, for argument's sake, the average number of interviews a job seeker goes through is 7. And you had 2 interviews and neither one of them worked out. But you got to get to the next 5 interviews in order to even meet the average of where you might need to be. So that's kind of a way to look at it, where you're going to have to do a certain amount of numbers just to compete. Getting discouraged and then not putting in the work because now you're paralyzed by rejection and failure is not going to get you to your goal any faster. You have to shake it off, and you have to get right back out there and do the things that are going to get you the next interview. Networking, LinkedIn connections, getting informational interviews, and trying to get connections with people, asking for employee referrals. These are all things, again, that I talked about before, and I'm just giving you kind of a little snapshot of what it is that you have to do to be successful. But you have to put in consistent effort and not get derailed by rejection. And my prediction for the job market is, I do think that 2024 is going to be a better year than 2023. I think 2023, there was a lot of uncertainty. There were a lot of things working against the market. Things are starting to settle. There were wars going on, and interest rates, and what was going to happen. And, I know we're in an election year, which is going to make things a little tricky. But at the end of the day, stock market is booming right now. Interest rates are kind of settling in right now. There's talk of keeping them steady and maybe even, a rate cut at some point. So everybody's excited about that, which means the cost of money is going to be a little more predictable. So that means that companies will now get back to investing. Those are what drives the job market and opportunity. People are afraid that AI is going to just crush every job that exists. I think that AI is going to change a lot of things, but I don't think it's going to eliminate every job. And I think that that was part of the fear in 2023 was like, oh my God, AI is here. We're out. We're done.
Do you feel like the mass hiring, like, when tech companies did that mass hiring, like pre-pandemic and kind of like post-pandemic, played a huge role in like the fact that everybody's kind of getting laid off now as well? Do you think they were like, oh, we're just going to hire, and we'll be fine? And now they're realizing since they can't afford all these people.
I think the pandemic did disrupt the balance of things a lot. Do I think that there's going to be some type of course correction where there's going to be this massive change and rapid hiring? I don't think so. I think that we're settling in to this new normal where there's still companies that are like, yeah, we're cool with the whole virtual thing. And there's other companies that are like, nope, everybody's got to get back to work. And because of that, that actually changes the job seeker perspective. And now if you're not flexible and willing to go back to an office 3 to 4 days a week, now you're pulling yourself out of the game. So that leads to being more flexible as a job seeker is going to be more opportunity. So it's hard to really predict what's going to happen, but we can only learn from where we've kind of come from and use that to make us better as candidates, as job seekers, and prepare ourselves for what it is that we need to do. So when you get an interview, you crush it. You get an interview, it's your job to win the interview. That's why my book is called How to Win Your Dream Job. It's not land your dream job, because your dream job doesn't land in your lap.
You got to win it.
So the title is descriptive of what the book is about. It's how do you win? Because you have to be the one that forces that result.
Yeah.
And then Z, you got any tips for like mental health for like that applicant that's just burnt out at the moment, that person that's applying? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you've been in that position before where you were like just struggling to apply, even like when it came to like med school and all that.
No,
Like,
I was lucky.
fair.
I could bullshit you, but no,
Fair.
I've never wanted a job that I haven't gotten.
Fair.
But I think I was I had a very unique situation in that my first boss was my dad. Okay. So,
But that has its own like problems within itself.
like I said, I was blessed. I mean, both people sitting here know my dad. He's like the best, I never had a problem with it. He's the best boss you could have. Best dad, best boss. So actually I never had like the two-sided whatever. And I learned a lot from him. Now I could get a little more technical. Like I had bosses before him. I mean, me and my brother worked in like a restaurant when we were teenagers, right? So I had, and then in residency, you're getting paid, not much, but I'm working for the hospital, and I had chief residents and then attending physicians and program directors, and I had bosses. I'm lucky. I loved what I do. So like I never had anybody demand more of I never had to move my butt. Like if anything, it's like, slow down, dude, like whatever. So I never had that issue. And then I was with my dad, and then I worked for other bosses after I worked for my dad. And I've just been very, very blessed. And I think I have to appreciate that. I think what I've learned is if you're getting fatigue and stuff, I think one thing is, I think everything Tom said about what we call the macro environment is true, meaning not to get too economic about it. When the interest rates are to translate what Tom said, stability. When employers have stability and they can predict how the economy is going, then they don't have to hoard their resources and they could go out and invest in growth, meaning hire people. When it's unstable and things are sliding, they're like, don't extend expenses because we don't know our reserves, right? That's very important. But you know what? That can change tomorrow. What doesn't change is looking internally for how you're going to best, I just pull out what Tom said about self-growth and self-investment. If every 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you've added 2, 3, 4 skills, 2, 3, 4 connections, 2, 3, 4 relationships, then all of a sudden you've created value for yourself. And I just look at it as extreme accountability. Then why wouldn't someone hire you? You should make it, I love the win thing. You should make it abundantly clear. It shouldn't, I would take that approach, not like, God, I hope they don't find a better candidate. I would take that approach of be the very best candidate. Like, what is it? It's not a secret. Like, what are they looking for? They're looking for somebody. You create competitive advantages. Like, if I'm in this position, if I'm starting out now, I listen to someone who's a professional like Tom. He says, all right, Z, you want a job? I've been doing this for almost 30 years. Take just the remote thing, he said, just that. I'd say, so Tom, you're saying some of the guys that you're interviewing that I'm competing with, that you take to your clients, they really care about the remote? Yeah, Z, probably 1 out of 3. They're like, listen, I'm in Portland and I don't know that I want to move, even though the Jersey's a big biopharma. So make sure, I could come out 1 week a month, but I don't know if I could really be in the office all that much, blah, 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 blah. I like hiking. I'm like, well, are you saying that if I'm upfront that, listen, I'm looking forward to being in the office 5 days a week? Well, Z, that's definitely going to give you a leg up. Boom. Write that down, right? That's how, but I think that if you're like, I don't know why it's not working, ask yourself, what have you declared that gives you that competitive advantage, that makes you valuable? And I think if you don't do that, hopefully you get a job, but you shouldn't be surprised if you don't, right? Like I would say, what are the variables that can, look, I'm a pediatrician. All right. You have kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pediatrician. I'll make it about me. Every time somebody comes in to the office, and I think the whole team takes it this way, someone with their kid's life, that's like a crazy responsibility, right? And you do your best every day to take it super seriously. And I think that, like, if I see someone who doesn't, right, I wouldn't be surprised why people don't go to them. Like, I don't think I'm the smartest doctor. I don't think necessarily I'm the best doctor. In fact, I have people in my family that are better doctors than me. But nobody will ever say, this guy doesn't care as much about my kid as he does his own kid, right? And that's a competitive advantage, right? And so otherwise, if you're like, yeah, I like what I do and I like seeing kids, but sometimes it gets this. Well, dude, I don't want to take my kid to you. There's no sometimes when it comes to I want someone who is in awe of the opportunity to care for someone's kids. And you should translate that for whatever, like social media, like what you said. Like, if you're in the social media marketing business, you should be building skills. When I'm on LinkedIn, I'm always, of course, I never click, but I see like 5 ways to learn LinkedIn skills, right? Now, I just scroll and I like it, but in my head, I'm like, somebody should do that and then master it and learn it and so on and so forth. There's so much, I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, I just see so much opportunity.
So much opportunity.
All right. March Madness predictions.
Dude, I stopped a few years ago. I stopped with college ball because the kids are in and out in 2 seconds. By the way, Rutgers next year, basketball is going to be nuts. Do you know this? They got the second and third highest ranked high school basketball players in the country. The second and third. The second is a kid in Jersey who I went to see in the Bergen County Jamboree with my kids. His name's Dylan Harper. His father is Ron Harper, who's Michael Jordan's point guard.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Ron Harper.
Yeah.
His son, Dylan Harper, is the second highest ranked high school player in the country. Played for Don Bosco. He's going to Rutgers.
Wow.
And let me tell you something.
Go.
I saw this kid play live. He's all that.
Really?
I told my brother, I think this kid could play in the league now.
Wow.
Unbelievable. The third highest ranked kid, number 1's going to Duke. The third is a kid in Georgia, like tall forward type, going to Rutgers. So, and by the way, they're pretty decent this year. Like they've been slowly getting better, and you're adding these 2 kids. So next year, I'm excited that I could go to Rutgers game and see like legit blue chip team. This year, dude, I don't know. I mean, I really don't watch. I'm an NBA guy. Do you watch college ball at all?
No.
Yeah. No.
I'm a wrestler.
Yeah.
So right now, our March Madness is going on because the wrestling championship started today.
Oh.
And they end on Saturday.
Are you into MMA?
Yeah.
See, I'm big. Me and my brother. My brother's
Yeah.
huge into MMA, and I'm like a little bit of a cat above the cat. But every Saturday night, I'm at his house watching like UFC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that. I mean, I love it. I have a lot of appreciation for it, but I'm not like, I know every little detail.
Yeah, I don't know every detail, but I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this last week. But how'd you feel about the O'Malley fight?
Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't get to watch it.
Oh, fair.
But it does like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. My brother, he's like all about it.
What weight class did you wrestle in?
I wrestled 167 in college.
Fair.
I'm actually not that far away from my.
Do you still
my
train and
concept.
stuff?
I train every day. Yeah, I train harder now than I think I ever have.
like weightlifting or
Yeah.
like grappling or like what?
No, I train about 60 to 90 minutes a day, every day. Rarely do I take off. And it's a combination of resistance training and cardio.
You run?
So I run 3 days a week,
How far do you run?
usually around 4 miles.
That's really good.
Yeah. Somewhere around there.
Do you
3
listen to
4 miles.
music or just no?
I listen to music, podcasts, YouTube. Like if I'm on a treadmill,
Yeah.
I'll watch videos. I was editing my book while I was running a lot. Like literally, I would be working on my book as I was running, and I would come up with ideas, and I would stop and I would make notes, and because you do your best thinking when you're working out. So I got a lot of inspiration while I was running.
You know this David Goggins guy?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other day, I'm in the car with my kids, and my son puts him on. And I've heard him before, but like we were listening to him for 30 minutes. I've never felt so like ineffective. He was talking about running like 30 miles,
Yeah.
which immediately I'm like, I could never do that. But he spent 30 minutes not talking about the 30 miles. That's a given, about how he would never dare listen to music or something while running. He's like, no, that makes it 10% easier.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not running for joy. I'm running to run. I'm trying to dominate myself. Blah, blah, you go. I'm like, this guy is an animal.
He's an animal.
I couldn't stop listening to it.
His book,
I
Can't
felt
Hurt
this
Me, is
small.
awesome. You should read his book.
I will.
Can't
I will.
Hurt
I
Me.
love listening to him.
So it's funny. I have 2 financial advisors that I talked to them today, and they're at a seminar with David Goggins
Get out of here.
today. Like literally, like now, right
That's
now.
great.
How
That's
crazy is
great.
that? Yeah.
Well, man, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We gotta do this again.
Great. Let's do
How
it.
awesome was this?
This is great.
Great conversation. What was that? Like 6 minutes? That went fast, didn't it?
That was great, man.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Much appreciated.
Seriously, I'll come
Yeah.
back anytime.
Love it.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Good stuff.